Welcome, everyone. We have Karnie here.
Hey,
Uh,
Tyson.
we, I'll give Karnie a bit of a spot to tell you a bit all about what she does, how she does it. First of all, Karnie, there's there's a lot of people who do the quick win campaigns, and you are one who jumped in head first.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, kudos to you for taking the action
Thank
and
you.
for being willing to move outside your comfort zone
Yep.
because things like this, getting your business, you know, moving forward outside your comfort zone, taking big risks, it is a scary journey and it is
Mm-hmm.
something that people can find a lot of resistance. But you were just all in, jumping in, becoming a version of you who can play a bigger game, and you found a lot of really cool wins. So, what we're going to do here for everyone listening, we're going to have a bit of a chat about Carney's wins
Yep.
and what she found as terms of big breakthroughs for her quick win campaign, but then also what we can do in terms of some small tweaks or some little adjustments that may be needed for something that's a little bit more optimal and some things that we can tweak for the future quick win campaigns for her to make it a little bit more effective and efficient. First of all, Carney, go ahead and explain to the World Wide Web who you
Who
are,
I am and what I do.
what you do. How would you explain a bit about your business?
Okay, so I am a complex trauma therapist, Reiki master, transpersonal counsellor. Basically, I work with altered states of consciousness to take people into the subconscious to see their um, limiting self-core beliefs that are holding them back from living their best on purpose life that they can possibly be living. Um, and I do that through hypnoscripts with my STAR work, so STAR Storyteller Alchemy Rapid Recode. That's an 8 session program that takes you into the theta state, which is the child genius state of everything's possible and the sky's the limit kind of thing. And it puts a spotlight onto the shadow parts of self that we often don't want to have a look at, the conditioned self, the program self, the things that we're trapped in from childhood where there was limitation.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, work that we all know is needed.
Yep.
And you have grown an engaging and really warm, receptive audience already. You've built a community around what you do and how you do it.
Yep.
What was the biggest breakthrough for you? You had a engaging community already. You were putting things out there. You were putting on particular events and running particular programs. Where was the breakthrough, or how did the Quick Win campaign provide a bit of a missing link for what you're delivering?
All right. So there were many things. I'll try and narrow them down because there's more than just one. Um, I did when I first began. I began very enthusiastically. Now, I would say that I actually hit my resistance relatively quickly. And there are a whole heap of things. There were some very big things going on in my life at the time that were outside of my control. But I was so used to using things in my life as an excuse that I actually wasn't turning up for myself. And it was in a conversation with you that I realized that very quickly. And some of the early videos that you shared with us were around things like commitment. And I realized that there was a part of me that wasn't actually committing to myself, that I was kind of expecting this magic to just happen on its own without any investment from me. And that was perhaps a little unrealistic. I also came in with a very big community, as you said. I think there's about 400 that I engage with on a regular basis in my actual Moon Circle group. But although I talk to many of them personally, I don't talk to them about the work I do personally very often. I will talk to them about what's going on in their life and how, perhaps I can help them, but I don't talk generally about the work I do. And so there's kind of this mystification around what it is that my business actually is and how I can help people. And I didn't believe you, I'll be honest. I didn't believe you when you said that we had to inbox people and that
Yeah.
was going to
Personal
make a
messages.
difference. Yeah, did not believe that at all. I'm like, no, no, no. I talk to my people all the time. It's not going to work. I was actually gobsmacked when it did. Really, really gobsmacked. That was the biggest breakthrough for me. And I ended up reaching out to 54 people. I reached out to 57 people. 54 of them said, yes, we'd love to know what you're doing. Like, that's phenomenal.
Yeah. And what was the gobsmacked part? What were you doing beforehand to reach out and connect with them?
Okay.
And why sending a personal message on Facebook? Why was that more effective?
Okay. Beforehand, I'd been putting up advertisements. I'd been doing something nearly every day. Sometimes I would do a live to talk about what I was doing, or I would put up, what felt like a really appealing offer to me, but it didn't actually um, hit to the core essence of what people wanted to shift. So what I was able to do with the quick win campaign that we ended up organising was I was able to create a very open-ended offering that could also be specific. And so it gave people the chance to progress at their level in an area of their choice, but it left it open as to what that choice was. Um,
Well, let's unpack that because that's very vague. But
I've got one more thing I want to say first.
yeah,
The
go
other
for it.
thing that really surprised me in those conversations with people, I'd spoken about the 22 days of joy flips that I'd done with Becca and the 10 days of receiving joy flips that I'd done beforehand. And I'd been advertising them left, right, and centre every single day, popping them up in every forum I could think of. And so many people in their response to me said, oh, no, we've never seen your advertisements. We've never seen you pop up anything about this. Yeah, I'll go and check it out. So it was almost a 50% rate of people who hadn't even come across that work that I thought I was putting out very diligently.
Okay,
So
so question, when you say you were advertising, what do you mean? You mentioned you're doing lives
yeah,
but how else were you doing that? Posts, creating
yeah,
it inside your Facebook group?
yeah.
Like what were you
Yeah.
doing?
So I was sharing the posts and the YouTube videos every single day because we had 22 days of them and then another 11 days of them. So I shared them on my personal page. I shared them in my Moon Circle group that I run. Um, I even shared some in other circles that I'd created for other events. And, we had some traction. I think there was between Beck and I, there was about 60 people joined up, but they weren't all people that I knew. And so, and the other thing that I did was I had sent some inboxes to people, but I hadn't sent any explanation about it. It was just like this thing suddenly arrived in their mail. Um, and I kind of realized in listening to you that it was really profound. One of the things I really hate is when people have got an offer and they walk straight through your front door without even knocking to let you know they're there. And that's what I'd done. Like, I'm like, here's a video, but I didn't even say here's a video. I just shared the video in the DMs, and I'm like, I've done exactly what I hate happening to me. Like, I've just walked into their house without even announcing or inviting them to join me. The invitation made a massive difference. It felt much more organic. It felt much more authentic, and it felt full of so much more integrity that I could actually have the conversations I needed to have.
Oh, beautiful. And so when you say inbox, you mean personal message?
DMs.
Yeah,
Yeah, personal messages. Yeah.
personal message on Facebook on Messenger.
Yeah.
Um, and so when you're saying this is what one thing we wanted to get clear about the messaging, because when you say joy flips, unless people are in your world,
Mm,
I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means.
no.
But you were saying you were running these, you were getting traction, you
Yeah.
partnered with Beck, and you guys were running particular events, that go across, 20 something days, and you were basically giving them prompts every day on how to shift
Yeah,
particular patterns. Is that right?
absolutely. How to shift patterns where people could be stuck in an unconscious core belief around something. So it might be, receiving gifts, or receiving compliments, or receiving joy, or just taking time out to rest. And
Yeah.
every single one of the sessions we did had a nervous system reset component to it, and that they were really small micro shifts, so they were easy for people to integrate.
Yeah.
um, of the people who did those 22 days and then the 11, we had people who had phenomenal changes. So one of the women in the group, she had been out of relationship for 8 years, never believed that she was going to have another partnership again. After she finished the 33 days, she's actually in this most beautiful connection with a new partner now.
Oh,
So some incredible shifts came out of it.
yeah.
But for me, there was even a big awareness about how important it is to make the shifts really small shifts, but consistent. So a lot of people, jump in boots and all, and they want everything yesterday. I'm very guilty of that too.
Yeah.
And, so there was a lot of reflective stuff that came up for me too that I had to face and kind of work through as I was going through this as well, because the Quick Win campaign, I had to approach it from doing small incremental steps that then had big ramifications on my life, because every time I did something else would come up that I had to have a look at. I had to then have a look at, I don't like looking at budgets and things like that. You kind of have to when you're running a business.
Every now and then.
Kind of important that you have your finger
Very
on that
important.
pulse. But, so that was just one example. But there were lots and lots of things where I realised that there was growth opportunities for me as well too.
100%.
Yeah.
That's really good. And so were they delivered through just YouTube, like recorded stuff and live videos that were just shared with them? How were you running the joy flips?
So the joy flips they are on our channel that we shared together, which is the Weird Weavers. So they're all there, free, publicly available. But we also had an open group as well too, that we shared into that group that we could then talk about as well. With the Block to Blessed, which was the next one I did for the Quick Win campaign, I've shared those through my personal YouTube channel, which is Karnie Kamala, and I've also shared them in a Block to Blessed chat group, and I've also created a Facebook group of Block to Blessed. So yeah, so I learned to open up new opportunities, and I realised from the sessions that you'd run that it was really important to have a chat that was running as well too, to keep people. And it was really interesting. I'd have people inbox me and saying, like, I don't want to put you under pressure, but it's 9:02 and the the Block to Bless isn't up yet. Is it going to be up soon, kind of thing? So that was really exciting to know that there was this excited anticipation from people as well too.
Yeah, definitely. So, okay, so you're running joy flips, you were getting interest, but there wasn't necessarily too much follow through. And then when you would promote something, you thought it was getting through to more people than it was. You were creating videos, you were creating your posts, promotional posts, and you're also sharing the YouTube stuff. What you realize when you're sending personal messages is half the people weren't even seeing it. They didn't even know what was going on or what you were putting
Yeah.
on. And you thought everyone was seeing it. And one
Yeah.
of the main points I make with someone trying to test a message, so as soon as you run a quick win campaign and you choose a niche, you choose a problem, and you choose an outcome, you have to send personal messages to really test the message, to test that foundational message, to see how many personal messages you send, how many people are seeing it, what's the response rate and what are they saying?
Yeah.
You get a great understanding. When you create a post and you create a video or something that's leveraged like that, you don't know. If
Yeah.
it falls flat, you actually don't know if it was the algorithm. You don't know if you post on the wrong time of the day. You don't know
Yeah.
if people just for whatever reason were distracted by something else on the news that had happened. You're still left in the same spot of
Yeah.
is this combination of niche problem and outcome actually
Yeah.
going to land? But if you send personal messages, all of a sudden you do, and you do have that personal touch, the relationship building element to it. There's just so much more to it, and I know it can freak a lot of people out and bring up a lot of fears. And I think the more the better.
Yeah. I actually found it very liberating. But
Yeah,
I think the other thing too is that when you're running it in the way I was running it beforehand, that wasn't as effective. Um, when you're just, trying to get your foot off the mark, it can leave you feeling, so it can tap into your shadow stuff very quickly. So I would be thinking things like, I'm putting so much out there, I'm turning up every day. Why is no one interested? Is what I've got to offer not of interest to people? So it's very easy to go down the rabbit hole of thought patterns that are not beneficial to you. Whereas when I, engage with people through private messages, I got feedback pretty instantly. So I think I wrote to 60 people. There were 57 who responded, 3 who ignored me, and I could see it had been sent and I could see that it had been read. And 54 who said, yes, we'd love to join you. And the other 3 just said, look, at the moment, I've got too much going on in my life. Let me know if you run it again. We'll have a look at it. I'll have a look at it that time, then.
now that's
So that
not
was
normal for
really,
everyone. That's just because you have a very warm audience, and that's kudos
yeah,
to you for how much you put a message out there. But I'm sure if anyone sends 50 personal messages and they get 20 responses, people are happy. You know what I mean? Um, there's just it's because you have built something of a very warm audience who people who already like, know, and trust you.
yeah.
So you
And
were
it's been over
telling,
a long time. That's a
yeah,
10-year audience. Yeah.
yeah. So you were telling me a bit about 54 people say yes to the quick win campaign called
Yeah.
Block to Blessed, and you said 26 on the first week.
Yep. Turned up.
26 turn. What do you mean by turned up? Did you run a Zoom call?
Okay. So, yeah. So it was a 21-day activation. And for that 21-day activation, there was a daily prompt where I had recordings. Initially, I was going to run it by live, but I only had one person keep turning up every morning at 9 in the morning. And I'm like, I can't sustain this.
Yeah.
I need to do the recordings for this. So I had 21 days of recordings of meditations that were only 10 minutes long and 21 days of um, a session overview that was either for 15 or 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And within my community of people who were doing the Block to Blessed, I asked for volunteers, and I had people who said, yep, I'm happy to come on and do a recording with you. And so that became the video that we shared. They knew that that was the parameter. But on each Friday, so I ran an AM and a PM session so that I could capture my American market as well too. And on the Friday, I had a 9 till 10 check-in in the morning and then a 7 till 8 check-in in the evening. Because the evening group ended up being so much bigger, it ended up going a little bit longer. But I let them know that would probably be the
Was that
case.
a Zoom call?
That was a Zoom call. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I,
And
that's what I
that
meant.
was an experiential Zoom call. So in that call, they were taken through the process so there were three stages I looked at. The first one was aware, the second one was expand, and the third one was embody. So my Block to Blessed are about choosing one aspect of life that you want to create a shift in and making the body feel safe enough to create that shift through the process of micro shifts. So the first week in aware, we were looking at a whole heap of things around, what's coming up in your body, what is your brain telling you versus to what, how's your body actually processing it, and creating that kind of a witness of process. awareness. In the second week in Expand, we've been opening up the awareness of how it feels to be safe within the body, so that, you know, we can build capacity around what it's okay to receive and allow into our life. And then the third week will be on embodying that.
Okay. So they're more joining weekly calls rather than doing daily and as well as doing daily recordings.
Many of them have done both. So it's been really interesting because the weekly calls, so there was half the amount that turned up in the second week, and one of the groups was bigger. So they both started out the same, but there was 11 in one group that turned up and 3 in the other that turned up. And I realised that there was a difference in the clientele in those two areas. So that was really interesting to sit back and reflect upon as well too. But also this week and towards the end of last week, I've been having a lot of conversations. So I do a cacao check-in in the morning on my porch as a reel. And I've been talking lots in there about commitment to self and why that's important and what it looks like to show up for yourself and how it can incrementally change things in your life. And of course, the reality is, through the Quick Win campaign, I've actually been living the reality of that at the same time. So the Quick Win campaign actually allowed me to grow in my own journey too. And to have a really embodied awareness of, you know, why it doesn't always feel safe.
Yeah. Yeah. Before we get into that, how about you tell us a bit about the messaging around your Quick Win campaign? Because before it was around joy flips and it was kind of broad and kind of a little bit nebulous around what it was able to do. You're able to welcome in more joy and receive more things, and you know, so it was a little bit more of a broad message. Speak a little bit about what we did for your message, because it was a pretty cool way. I know you tapped a little bit into it before, but there was a really cool way we sort of harnessed the message and allowed people to choose what matters most to them.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah. So would you like me to share the picture I've got?
Sure.
Yeah. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, hang on. Can I share?
You can do that, and then I'll give you permission.
Okay. Yep. No worries. Only the host saying only the host can share in this meeting.
Okay. How about you just tell us?
Doesn't matter. Yeah, I'll just tell you about it anyway. Okay. So one of the things so probably the most pivotal shift in the entire Quick Win campaign was the one-on-one I had with you, because I realized in that one-on-one that I'm always too broad. I'm a big picture thinker. I'm always too broad. And so I needed to hone it down. And one of the things we spoke about was you asked me what it was that my audience would want the most change in. And I didn't want to make that decision for them. I actually thought when you had suggestions for me of what aspects they might want to look at, did they want better relationships? Did they want an increased finance? Did they want their business to have more clients? What was it they wanted to focus on? I think we came up with about 6 or 7. I decided that I didn't want to make that choice for them and narrow my audience. What I would do instead was I would create a program that allowed each person to explore whatever they wanted to explore at a more specific level. So we would all do the same process work, but it would just be on whatever topic they wanted it to be. And that was a real winner for me, because what it meant was when I reached out to people and was able to say, you know, this is what I'm thinking of running, and I'm looking at each person only choosing one aspect and shifting from being very stuck in a cycle to suddenly having some flow in that cycle. Would you be interested in exploring it? Is there an area of your life that isn't working for you? It therefore appealed to a lot more people because it was so open-ended.
So what we did was, and I want to have people understand a little bit about my thought process when we were organizing this, is that yes, we want something that's more clear, more compelling. And by doing that, we narrow down the problem that people want to have solved. Therefore, it gives us a more tangible outcome we can help people achieve.
Yep.
And I wanted to go down this path because you already have a warm audience.
Yeah.
So getting engagement was going to be easier through your personal messages. I understood that. People already like, know, and trust you.
Yeah.
Therefore, we knew we are going to get responses, but when you are focusing on things like joy flips that are broad and nebulous, and instead we were to say, okay, what are the type of meta niches? What type of meta niches could we create a tangible quick win in? And we're like, okay, well, let's look at health and wellness. Let's look at relationships and love.
Mm.
Let's look at business and career. Let's look at, so we kind of just went down the list of the meta niches and sort of said, what about if they choose which meta niche they want to focus on? Do they want to focus on receiving more love, or have a better relationship or receive more passion? Or do they want to focus on business and career? Do they want to focus on wealth and
Mm.
finances? Do they want to focus on their health and wellness? Like, what is it? What is it in particular that they
Mm.
want to focus on? Because when they
Yeah.
do that, they get to choose what matters most to them and then implant that problem and outcome in their mind.
Yeah. But then they're also engaged and committed to it because they've made the choice.
Yep. Rather than saying, hey, we're going to you can create shifts in any of these
Yeah.
thing, you can do it and you can do it all at once. People's
Mm.
commitment levels aren't as targeted. They're not as specific. They're not
Yeah.
as narrow. And therefore there's less commitment.
Yeah.
So
And
that's
in week
why,
one, I got them to tell me what what the aspect they wanted to focus on was.
yeah,
So they actually made a verbal commitment to that as well too,
yeah,
and they wrote it in a journal as well. So there
yeah,
was, there was some degree of early embodiment as to where they wanted things to be
yeah,
moving.
totally. So you can, when you're running a quick win campaign, I encourage everyone to focus on what are your wins, what's working. That's one of them, right? This is one of them. The
Mm.
message was really landing. The response rate was great. People really understood what was going on. The next piece and what can be tweaked is around how many show up
Yeah.
and how many engaging week to week. One thing I was really proud of in the last quick win campaign was that just as many people showed up on week 4, 5, and 6 as
Mm.
on week 1.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I was quite surprised. Normally, as anyone running programs know, that there is a level of drop off,
Yeah.
and sometimes that's due. There are many, many factors, but there are only some things we can control. We can control one, how good is it? Like, how good is our program? How good is our course?
Yeah.
If it's phenomenal and people are just blown away each time, they're more likely to show up.
Yeah.
Right? There's also the level of commitment through reminders, through accountability, through some support,
Yeah.
that component.
Yeah.
So
And,
that's
and can I say you're exceptional at that? Because that was something, even though I was witnessing you doing that, it wasn't something I thought to do.
yeah,
But when I had less people show up in the second week, I actually sat back and thought, okay, well, what Tyson had lots of people show up consistently throughout. What was it he did differently? What do I need to learn to integrate here? And that was what I realized was that
yeah,
you are very good at the reminders and you make it really easy for people to turn up.
yeah, yeah. And so, I mean, there was even one time where I pressed the wrong Zoom link and I was in the wrong Zoom call, and people were typing in the chat, "Hey, I can't get in," and I was like, "All right, I'll send the direct link." From whatever Zoom room I'm in. I don't know what room I'm in, but obviously I'm in the
Yeah.
wrong room. So I sent the Zoom link to the group chat, and then the 12 or whatever. This was the smaller call, the
Yeah.
second week, the second option in the week call. So I think it's between 12 and 14 people generally showed up on that one rather than the 18 to 20 something. But yeah, it's because I had people in one group
Yeah.
on a one group chat that I could actually do that compared to sending out another email or doing like some other things that were
Yeah.
less reliable.
Yeah. You also
And
had accountability pods, which I really liked as well.
yeah,
And I didn't choose to go that option this time round. I think if I run it again, that's what I will do.
cool. Yeah, test and tweak. Like there are
Yeah.
some things, obviously, with accountability pods. I got everyone like last round of the intensive. I wanted people to be involved in the accountability pods, so I kind of made it mandatory. And I said, "Hey, everyone's showing up in these accountability pods." But I realized that some took off and some didn't. Some are really
Mm.
good, others weren't. Some I'm testing and tweaking this next intensive with giving people the option.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm going to pitch why being a part of accountability group is so important.
Mm.
The accountability groups that took off, they all got the best results.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very, very clear.
Well,
It's
they were really powerful too around the messaging. You know,
yeah,
to know that you weren't sitting there alone trying to create your own message, but you had, 4 or 5 other eyes to fly it past, and they would give you feedback on what worked for them, what didn't, what needed to be clearer. That was really, really pivotal, I thought.
yep, yep. So you've got a couple components here, as I mentioned before. One, how good is your stuff? That's very clear.
Mm.
Two is the reminders, the accountability, the container of support so that people can, people know where they're going, they know what's next. You've got the plan.
Mm.
And then three is really the theme. Like what theme are you setting?
Yeah.
And you mentioned that in your live, but I made sure I did it on the call. I made sure I mentioned in the groups. I made sure I mentioned in the accountability groups, the
Yeah.
group chat, everything. I created this theme that um, just showing up is 80% of the battle. Showing up is just
Yeah.
80% of the tick, and to take imperfect, uncomfortable action.
Yeah.
If you
And I
can,
think for me, Tyson, what happened was I didn't realize that early on because it was my own shadow. But
yeah,
it was as I began facilitating the process and I started looking at my own shadows around that I actually realized that there were deeper unconscious core wounds around why people don't show up.
yeah,
People who've been trained into showing up for others haven't been trained into showing up for themselves,
yeah,
and so they don't prioritize that. They don't think it's significant or important. They're too busy ticking other people's boxes to say, I've scheduled in this time for me. So for me, it was a really big awareness shift, and it's actually had a massive ripple effect in my life. Like from the quick win, I can say it began in the quick win campaign. I've made shifts in my diet, in my exercise, in my money management. There are so many areas that I'm starting to show up for myself differently.
how
My
cool.
communication, yeah, it's been really profound. Even the way I'm talking in messaging, because what I realized was that I needed to talk about things like why we don't turn up for ourselves. That I had to break that down for people so that they could understand that it wasn't, because I had people writing to me apologizing, and I'm like, please don't apologize to me, because like at the end of the day, it doesn't make a difference to my life if they don't turn up. But what we're looking at here is a pattern we want to interrupt. We
Yeah,
want to break the cycle around that pattern, because the pattern's not working for you. It's not going to get you to where you want to be,
yeah,
you know?
100%. And this is what you can. I think I mentioned this in week 4 of the intensive, is how much your leadership is required when you're running a quick win campaign. You're guiding a group of people to go through changes,
Yeah.
through uncomfortable uncertainty to to a result that they haven't achieved before. And
Yeah.
so you need to embody a level of certainty in going through that, and therefore you have to live it yourself.
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
very cool. So tell me just quickly, what are some of the changes you've made in your exercise, your health, your showing up, your
Okay.
finding? What?
So in the work that I've done with Block to Blessed, I'd never realized before the importance of micro changes and how that allows the physical body to be safe. Now, it's probably going to sound ridiculous, But my body is very physically compromised at the moment. I have lymphedema. Mobility is a real issue. I decided I wanted to get back to the treadmill again, but I knew I wasn't going to be able to sustain a really large amount of time. So I'm like, okay, I'll set myself a target that I know that I absolutely can reach. And it was only 2 minutes. When I got to 1 minute and 1 second, I was already like puffing, really hot, muscles were hurting. I'm like, whoa, this is interesting. But I've set myself the target, so I'm going to go to 2 minutes. So I did. And I also added in some stretching afterwards. The next day, when I got on, so this is only 3 days ago that I've done the exercise. The next day when I got on, I'm like, okay, I'm going to 3 minutes today, and I'm going to add music, and I'm going to sing while I do it. Because if I'm distracted by singing and feeling joyful, I'm not going to notice it to the same degree. So I got to 3 minutes really easily. And I added more stretching and more other exercises as well, just to tone muscles and things. And then this morning I got to 4 minutes, and I finished the whole song and added more, stretching and more heel lifts. And then I said, okay, I reckon I can probably go down and begin chopping that tree down that I've wanted to chop down for a long time this morning. I got caught in the blackberry. And I didn't get as far as I'd hoped to get, but I still did it. I took a step that was uncomfortable. Even getting caught in the blackberries was uncomfortable. But I just looked at that and thought, okay, I've got myself into this. I can untwist myself and get myself out. And it's interesting because of the work I do. Life for me is often very symbolic. So yesterday I literally was making myself a hot cacao, and I actually could feel that I was going to knock over the hot milk before it happened. And it went all over my kitchen bench, underneath the toaster, underneath the juicer, underneath the Thermomix. I'm like, oh man, this is going to be a big cleanup. And then I just looked at it and started laughing and went, don't cry over spilt milk. That's what this is about. Like, there are things that have gone on in the past that I literally can't change the way they unfolded, but I can change the way I approach them differently now. And that's what I think the quick win campaign and taking the micro steps started to shift for me. Like, I've made the first budget that I've made I can't even remember the last time I created a budget.
Yeah.
And I sat down and faced that without tears and without falling apart at the seams the other day. And that's only because the block to blessed has calmed down my central nervous system. And I think doing the quick win campaign began that, because you encouraged us to take small steps, but the celebrations that you gave us in return were so big, and we got to see the results. Like, when I had, 54 people say, yeah, I'll be part of that, I went, whoa, why have I never done this before? And I'd had people tell me to do it before, but I didn't believe them. And, I've got to be honest, there was a belligerent side of me that was, standing there, stamping her feet, a very naughty teenager going, like, I don't know why we have to do this. I know this isn't going to work. This is going to be a waste of my energy. But when I started reaching out to people and the responses were almost, instant, it was so contagious. It was like I was catching up with friends for a cuppa and just letting them know about something cool that I was doing that could be of benefit to them if they were interested.
That's why I wanted to create micro lessons and micro action steps. Huge kudos to you for just starting on the treadmill, because that's the equivalent of someone sending one personal message or two personal messages. Like, we all have the things that we have resistance around, and we know it's in our expansion to go to the other side.
Yeah.
We know that. For me, like, as many people know, I'm learning Facebook ads, for example, a different world, and sometimes I'm on ChatGPT for hours figuring out how to get my pixel to fire because it's not doing it. I'm putting in all these different
Yeah.
codes with my Kajabi and I'm like, but I want to be the version of me who can run those sort of things.
Yeah.
And I want to be the version of me who can have the patience and resilience to set up campaigns and to put things out there. And there's only really one way through it. And that's just to challenge yourself for that resilience. And for you to take that one action step to go on the treadmill for 2 minutes and 3 minutes and see what you can do for a song. And like, that is huge. That is the epitome of, a kind of metaphor for anyone going through something that they're procrastinating for. And
Yeah.
now when you run your campaigns, you can say, oh man, everyone chose things around money that they wanted to look at, kind of forced me to look at my money stuff,
Mm.
you know?
Yep. Absolutely.
That's big.
It was a shock.
Yeah, and you're like, I don't know if I can do that. People who tick in the boxes where they want to receive more money and look at the money and but I don't want that because that's triggering my stuff.
Yeah. Well, we had that conversation
Yeah,
and you literally said to me, that's probably the one area you need to face. And it's kind of
exactly.
interesting because money and physical health and well-being, they're actually in the same area of the body. They're both base chakra issues. And so, yeah. But the other thing that was interesting was that voice of resistance did kick in for me on the second day. And I could feel myself going, oh, you really don't have to do this. Like, we've been there before. It's not going to make a difference. Today is a bit of a cold day. Are you sure you really want to do it? We can just put it off and maybe get to it later. And because I was so aware of my resistance and because I was so aware of the need to commit to something, and I wanted to turn up for myself because I'd started turning up in other areas of my life. I'm just like, nah, I'm going to turn up, but I'm going to have a distraction that will keep me focused.
Yeah.
And the music made a big difference. I was amazed I could sing without getting breathless too.
I would encourage anyone. I mean, if for me, the noticing of the you call it monkey mind, call it
Yeah.
resistance, call it whatever, is doing cold showers. Now, I've been doing cold showers for years. The cold showers are a lot colder now. I'm back in Melbourne
Yeah.
instead of living in Queensland, which is great. And it's coming into winter now, so it's going to become more and more challenging. But every time I go to have a cold shower, and I've done, it started with a challenge of mine throughout the whole of winter. This is 7 years ago or something. I was not going to touch the hot tap in the shower. I was just going to go full cold, have cold showers, not even do a warm one, then a cold one. Now that's a little bit extreme, and you don't have to do that. But it for someone wanting to do things like this, your chatterbox mind, your resistance comes up just about every time.
Yes.
Every time. And it just gives you a reminder. The way I think about this is that resistance comes up because it's leaving. That resistance comes up because there's a side of you that does want to keep you small and in a comfort zone.
Yeah.
And your expansion, your growth is on the other side of noticing that resistance. Know that that's not all of you. Know that that's just a side of you. But don't let that side of you run the show. Hold it with love and compassion because it wants you to be safe and comfortable.
Yeah.
And stick with what's familiar. It wants you to be in a comfort zone for a very positive reason. But there's another side of you that wants to grow, and that's only found outside your comfort zone. And so for you to be able to, adopt some strategies, in terms of music, in terms of singing, in terms of, recognizing when you get to the end of the song, that's the milestone. But for you to do that means there's a different side of you that's running the show.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Look, the way I look at it is the soul's running the show now and not the programming. And what was kind of interesting was that the program I've created from Block to Blessed is very in sync with the work I do. It's all about interrupting the pattern. And so there was kind of this this part of me that went, okay, if you want to be the person that teaches other people how to interrupt their patterns, you can't be an imposter and not interrupt your own. Like, you actually have to be doing the work around that.
Yeah.
And so, the irony of that was not lost on me. And I find I laugh at myself a lot anyway. I'm very funny,
Yeah.
even when I don't mean to be. And so that was kind of cool. I just went, okay, this is a no-brainer. You want people to turn up for themselves and break their patterns and realize how important it is and how it's going to change their life. You've actually got to be doing the work.
100%. Like, and more people will. This is one of my last questions for you, but more people will show up when you're leading from that place. So
Yes.
that's going to be great. So my question to you
Yeah.
would
Well,
be,
it's authentic, isn't it?
yeah, my question to you would be, since the message is great, people are responding, you've got a tick there, you can jot down what's working. What needs tweaking is the show up rate from week to week.
Yeah.
So what do you think you may need to implement? Does the delivery need to be better? Do you
No,
need
I've
more
been
of a
to look
container of
for those who,
reminders?
sorry, Del. For those who've turned up, like in the last session we had, I had the majority of the group who'd come in with anxiety issues saying that they had felt a 75% reduction in their anxiety. So I know that the work itself is huge,
Yeah.
and I'm getting great feedback from the people who are doing it. I think it's the messaging around the awareness of what happens if we don't turn up for ourselves and why that's so important. I think
Cool.
that's really important message from an education point of view that I need to get out there. But I also think the way you kept touch with us throughout the entirety of the Quick Win campaign kind of felt like when you're going through the tough stuff that there was someone holding your hand. I need to do a little bit more of that. I
Cool.
need to, I've kind of thought initially, okay, well, it's up to them to, they signed up for this, it's up to them. No, there's actually more hand holding and scaffolding that's required because, like jumping on the treadmill, there are parts of showing up for yourself that are scary for people,
Yeah. Cool.
and they need the encouragement of that. I've got a couple of friends who I inbox every morning now to let them know how many minutes I've done on the treadmill, and all I get back is encouragement. So I've actually got advocates that I've created as well too, and I realize that that's part of my role in
Cool.
that. Yeah.
Cool. It like warms my heart to know that this process has helped you make tangible shifts in your own personal life.
Oh, it's been profound,
Yeah.
Tyson. Absolutely profound. And if you told me that this was going to happen, like the private messaging, I wouldn't have believed you.
Yeah.
There's
No
no
one does.
way I would have believed you.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
It's actually really taken me by surprise, but um, I'm very good at holding space for my own awareness and being the witness of my own process. It's kind of a bit of a superpower. And so, just even that awareness of, I can't be the imposter. It's time I turned up for me. I've put this on hold for too long. And, like the milk spilling, and I'm like, well, there's no point crying over the spilt milk. I just got to do it. I just got to turn up for me. It's that simple.
Yeah. 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 And physical challenge is a good piece of that. It is it
Mm.
it really does create a resilience and confidence, a level of courage where on the other side you're like, I didn't want to do that. My mind was freaking out and had all this resistance,
Mm.
did it anyway. So I'm now the kind of person who does tough things.
Yeah, yeah,
Very cool. I guess my challenge for you is you now have week 3
yeah.
next week.
Begins on Friday, the actual session, and then it opens up again. I'm going to run this again. I already know I'm going to run it again, and I'm probably going to do it in person as well too,
Oh, cool.
because I'm really excited to see. I actually want to be part of that community that's developed and give people other networks as well too that they can check into. And I think the people who really have done the work, there is such a strong collegiality amongst them. A lot of it had already been developed beforehand, but I'm excited to see what would happen with people I don't know. You know, what's the possibility? What are the potentials? How great could it be to see people making micro shifts in their life and realizing that life doesn't have to be, the way they thought it was.
Yeah, that's very
Uh,
good. And so I guess my challenge to you would be putting some things in place for either for the remainder of your campaign, as well as future campaigns, to see how you can be of support through accountability,
yep.
reminders, and also consistently planting the message of why showing up to these calls is so
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
Even reminding them of your mind may not give you your mind may be distracted, your mind may tell you that you don't need to show up this time, but then also highlighting that if you do that and you follow through with what your mind says with procrastination and distraction,
Mm.
it creates this pattern of more and more of that.
Yeah.
You can give them, you're leading by example here with your exercise and with your money and these sort of things.
Mm.
But I took it upon myself to really remind people every call that we had
Yeah. Yeah.
at the start of every Zoom call was the theme and the reminder of why it's so important to show up, why
Yeah.
it's so important to show up to these calls, why it's so important to continue with this work. Because if you don't, here's what may happen. If you do, here's the trajectory of what may happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
And
that's
look, the reality for me is the awareness that if you don't turn up for yourself, nothing changes.
yeah.
Like, if you're saying you want to go from A to Z, but you don't turn up for yourself, you're still at A.
Well, what I say is that you're also going backwards
Yeah.
because you're following the pattern of more and more procrastination, more and more distraction, more and more
Yeah.
inside your comfort zone. And so we all know that if you're trying to be more social, the fifth time you say no to a social event, it's
Yeah.
very easy to do it in the sixth time,
Yeah.
right? Your patterns just consistently reinforce.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, the hardest time to have a cold shower is the day after you didn't have one.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
As soon as you back out, as soon as you say, and it's happened to me before plenty of times, oh, I don't need to do it today. It's too cold outside.
Mm.
Probably my house is cold. My fluffy warm socks aren't ready for me. I don't know. Your brain does it, and as soon as
Yeah.
you don't follow through, the next day you're like, it's so much harder to follow
Yeah.
through.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the pattern people are playing with when you say no to showing up for yourself. You
Yeah.
follow down this path of less and less showing up for yourself, less and less courage, less and less
Mm. Yeah.
confidence, less and less determination,
Yeah.
compared to the upward spiral of more and more
Yeah.
passion, determination, courage, confidence
Yeah.
when you do show up for yourself.
Yeah. So really you're building resistance, which is like a weighted steam train, rather than building capacity, which is allowing all the good stuff to come
Yeah.
in.
Because
Yeah.
what some
I've
people
learned
may
lots
say,
about building capacity throughout this experience. I really have. That's been probably my biggest growth curve.
yeah. So, because what some people may say is that you're like, if you don't show up, nothing will change. And their mind will go, that sounds all right.
Yeah.
I'm okay where I am.
Yeah.
That's what the mind's saying. But as soon as you remind them, hey, if you don't show up, this is the pattern your mind is going to,
Yeah. Yeah.
this is the pattern your mind may go down. And this is where it'll affect the things that matter most to you.
Mm.
That's when they're like, all right, I have a choice here.
Mm.
Show up and go in this direction, or do I not show up and go in this direction?
Yeah.
So just making it a conscious effort on your behalf, every call to do that. Mention it in
Yeah.
the group.
Make a
Mention
difference.
it in the group chat. Put it in your reminders. Put it everywhere. Just
Mm.
tell. I was sending people personal messages,
I know you were. And that's
reminding
what
them.
made me turn up.
Yeah, I was reminding them of the calls.
Yeah.
That's
I would not have turned up had you not done that, because my life during that period of time, with what I had going on, with a family member in hospital, was really chaotic and hectic.
Mhm.
And that was what went, oh, oh yeah, that's right. I've got that that I've committed to, and I need to go. And each time I went, I'd come up with another nugget of gold, and that's what kept me coming back too.
Yeah.
So it was the nuggets of gold, but the reminders were what actually got me into the room.
Yeah. I kept telling people, I'm like, the first round of the Quick Win Campaign intensive, people would show up all the time to the call and tell me I wasn't going to show up today, and
Yeah,
I'm so glad I did. And so
yeah,
I kept reminding people, I'm like, show up even if your mind says you're not ready, even
yeah,
if you feel behind, even if you feel stuck. They were the things people were telling me. They said, I feel stuck, I feel behind, I'm not ready. I'm like,
yeah,
even if your mind says that, still show up,
yeah,
because so many people are in that position, and so many people tell me, I'm so glad I did. I had this insight. I didn't know it was coming, and I
yeah,
wasn't going to show up today. So I always give those examples.
yeah.
Let's wrap this up.
Yep.
You got some action items, you got some takeaways, and no doubt many people listening will have some good some really good nuggets to take away themselves. Where can people reach out to you? Where can people jump on board with your stuff on social media? Where's the best way people to reach out?
At the moment, I've got probably two platforms that are main ones. So I've got my personal page, Karnie Kamala, at Karnie Kamala on Facebook. I've also got a private spiritual group, Mystic Moon Magic, spelled MAGICK. And my email is karniekamala@icloud.com. Haven't got a landing page, haven't got a web page yet. It's in the pipeline. But I've actually made some steps towards navigating that as well too,
Right.
which is something I never would have thought I would have done. And the Quick Win campaign initiated that too.
Cool. Love it. Yeah, send them to me because I'll put them in the show notes, and
Yeah, beautiful.
where people can just click. Is there anything else you have for my audience or people listening of, some lessons or some things that you think may be a good wrap up for this chat?
Yeah. Look, I just wanted to say a huge thank you. Um, like I said, it was a really difficult time for me when I first began this campaign. I wasn't anticipating that it would be, but I had an unexpected event come in, and I think the kindness and compassion that you showed me at that time also was another reason why I turned up, because I felt there was a genuine sincerity there, and I'm all about authenticity. So I actually felt you were walking the talk of what you were saying. The other thing that I really noticed in the one-on-one was any of the conversations we had where I felt like it was harder for me, I knew at the same time that I was being asked to face it because it was for my greater good. And I think it's because of the way you scaffolded me through that I was able to get through it. That one-on-one was probably, one of the most powerful things I've ever done, because it gave me the chance to look at where the black holes were in what I was doing and kind of begin darning them up. So, yeah.
Beauty. Thanks for sharing. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
I
Thank you so
appreciate
much
the
for the
convo.
opportunity.
Yeah, pleasure.
I'm
Pleasure.
looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. Thank you for being on board.
Yeah.
Yeah, look
Thank you
forward to
for
the
all my
next one.
growth. Thank
Pleasure.
you for all my growth.
Yeah, well, give yourself credit. Like you got to give yourself a pat on the back, and you got to remind yourself that there's some courage on your side to actually follow through. So keep that momentum going. Let's see
Yep.
where we can take this thing. And thank you again. Appreciate
No
it.
worries, stuff. Ciao.
Thanks, Karnie. Bye bye.